Today is our 300th episode of the Exercise is Health podcast, and we have something special planned for you. We're going to cue our introduction, and we're going to dive right into what it is. Hey, welcome back, exercisers, to the Exercise is Health podcast, brought to you by Exercise for Life Studios, where we believe that your health is your most valuable asset, and the single best thing that you can do to both boost and protect this asset is exercise. Specifically, exercise is geared towards building the health and function of your muscles. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and today is our 300th episode of the Exercise is Health podcast. And in celebration of our 300th episode, we are going to go through our top 300 moments of the exercise. No, I'm just kidding. That would be a lot.
When we were reviewing this, Charlie said that. I was like, thank goodness that was a joke.
That's going to be a lot. No, we're not going to go through 300 moments, but we are going to go through some top things that we have learned, that we've figured out, things that have changed for us since launching this podcast in January of 2018 and releasing an episode every single week since then.
That's right. And if you've been with us for any amount of time, we would really appreciate it if you would pause this episode, scroll to the bottom, and give us that rating and review. Little do you know, this is the number one way for you to let other people know that we have valuable content. It also really helps us build our viewership and build our guest list for this podcast. So if you wouldn't mind, pause, give us that rating and review. It will only take a minute of your time. And we've done this for 300 episodes. We have learned a lot, but this is the first time we've ever offered our membership for free. So if you want to go get your 2-week free membership, go to www.exerciseforlifestudios.com and sign up for your free membership there. We are excited for you to try our membership and try one of our programs. A lot of people are kind of their brain changes when they try one of our programs. They're like, oh, this is what we're going to focus on? I didn't realize. So anyways, go over to exerciseforlifestudios.com and go ahead and sign up for your free membership.
So as you can probably imagine, if you do something for 300 weeks in a row, things are going to change.
Yes.
And things are going to change about what you think, about how you go about doing them. And so we want to kind of explore that with you because while some things change, also not everything changes. And so we want to talk about like what actually has stayed the same for us as far as like what we think about exercise and, you know, what we think about health and everything like that. What has changed, and then, you know, kind of where we see things going for us from here, you know, over the next 300 or so episodes. So yeah, that's what we want to dive in with you today, is just kind of not necessarily give you like a recap of the last 300 episodes, because I mean, there's a whole database so you can go back and binge listen if that's what you're interested in. But really just kind of say like, okay, like over the last 300 episodes, over, you know, more than 5.5 years now, 5 years, 9 months now, what really has changed for us, you know, over that time. And that's what we want to explore with you today.
That's right. You know what, Charlie? I was thinking about 300 episodes, and I was thinking like, man, if every single one was 30 minutes, then we have been talking on a microphone for like 150
hours.
Mm-hmm. That's like multiple days straight.
I mean, that's almost an entire week.
A whole week.
Mm-hmm.
And some episodes are longer, some are shorter.
Mm-hmm.
But if we average it out.
Yeah, we should actually go back and see like how much total time
wouldn't that be
we
funny?
have on here.
Yeah. Well, anyways, you know, I think this is going to be, I'm excited for you guys to be listening to this episode, not because we're celebrating our 300th episode, but because, you know, Charlie and I, you know, we have a mission of being like transparent and also explaining stuff. And over time, we've learned, I think, how to explain stuff differently. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of things that have stayed the same, and there are a lot of things that have changed with our messaging. And I wouldn't say that it's like at the core change, because if you listen to episode 1, we're like, everyone needs to resistance train and we will teach you how to do it safely. But the way that we have delivered it and made it more clear, I think is what you're going to see as the change through time. And also like our perspectives, right? Because like our lives have really changed over the last 5 and whatever years.
Oh yeah.
And I think that our experiences really change how we present material and how we advise people to exercise, because we're experiencing changes.
Well, just think about what's happened in the last 5 years. I mean, 2 kids.
Like personally, yeah.
Right. 2 kids, COVID, you know, shut down, everything like that. Released a book. We did the Schaumburg Health Summit. Like there's been so much that has happened. You know,
Right.
just complete transformation in our business as far as what we deliver, how we deliver it, everything like that. And so, yeah, like a lot really has changed for us. You know, I was thinking back to like when we started this podcast. I remember like we'd be sitting at lunch and we'd just have these conversations and we'd be like, gosh, more people need to hear these conversations that we're having. And so that really was kind of the initial mission or the spark behind the podcast of like, you know, after talking about it for like a year, we're like, okay, eventually we're just going to do this. We're going to start putting it out there, not knowing if we'd actually have content to put out every single week. But here we are 300 weeks later, we're still talking. And I actually find it gets easier to talk about content every week. But the point being is like, we had these conversations where like, okay, more people need to hear this. More people need to understand this. And we need to be able to deliver it to more people so they can get these understanding, these insights, and ultimately these benefits of exercise that we know to be true, or at least that we strongly believe to be true. And so that was kind of our initial thing. Like, we want to be able to share this with the world. Obviously, exercise is something that is done physically, and so to be able to try to articulate it and deliver it in an audio format, that can be challenging at times. And so I think one of the beautiful things about this whole process is it's allowed us to speak through a lot of our ideas and really help to kind of refine what we have seen to be actually these are the most important things, and those have ebbed and flowed over time.
Yeah, Charlie. So when someone listens to our podcast, I think whenever, in the beginning, now, whatever, what are you hoping that they leave thinking? I know we always give actionables, but the overall thought, what are you hoping that our listeners like think at the end of each podcast, or as the podcast listening as a whole?
So I hope that there's one thought that leads to the next, okay? And that one thought is, wow, exercise is something that's really important that I need to do. And that leads to, and now I know that I can do it.
Yeah.
Like, if we can get those two things, right? It's like, okay, wow, exercise really is important. Like, I know I need to be doing it, and now I know that I can do it. I know the steps that I need to take. And I feel like the more ways we can try to articulate that and the more different, topics of conversation, like, to me, if that's the message that people are consistently hearing, wow, exercise is really important, and now I know that I can do it, both like from a how-to perspective and like fitting in my schedule and everything like that, then to me that's a really powerful message to try to spread.
Yeah. I think a lot of people live in each little like valley of those two statements. Like, either you're in a place where you're like, exercise is not that important to me, meaning like you don't have enough things going on in your body that's like, dang, I really need to start exercising, right? A lot of times, if it's not already ingrained in you of something that you either label yourself as someone that I just exercise, I always have, I don't overthink it, I just exercise, or you enjoy it somehow, then you're probably left in that other area of like, my body or my life is not like going downhill enough. There's not enough pain, right? You take change when your current situation is too difficult, right? It's like, I just can't handle feeling this weak anymore. I can't handle, feeling deconditioned anymore. Like, I need to be able to walk with my kids or walk with my so, you might live in that valley, and then we hope that we can bring you up to this point where like, wow, exercise is important for me and everyone. And then that next valley of feeling like, now, how do I do it, right? Because some people, even they feel like they should be exercising, they want to be exercising, but they haven't yet found that like solution of like, here's how to do it. They feel like, I have exercised, it has hurt me, or I haven't found the system that works. I haven't found so then we hope to get you over that next hurdle of like, and I can do it. So I like that you brought those two up. That was great.
Well, it's been really neat because, like I said, it's difficult to articulate this thing that somebody's supposed to be doing physically and just give kind of verbal instructions for that. But the number of people that have emailed in just be like, hey, I've been listening to your podcast. I've been applying, the steps that you're taking. And these are the changes I'm noticing within my body. It's like, okay, wow, there really is something here. Just listening to what we're saying, and then there is that transfer into then being able to apply it on your own and do it consistently, like the increases in strength, the increases in mobility, the decreases in tightness, the decreases in pain and symptoms that people tell us about frequently through our DMs, through email, everything like that. It's so cool, and it just helping to reinforce and helping to continue this momentum of like, yeah, this is important. This is something that matters.
You know, when you were saying like, what do you hope people are thinking? You know, you said like 2 things, and then you just listed off a whole handful of physical things that people get. So what's so interesting with exercise is that exercise is not medicine, because medicine is like this substance that you inject or take orally or put in other orifices. But it is something that drastically changes your body. And so what's interesting as trainers is that we are not able to like legally claim like, hey, this is for pain relief. This is for, joint pain or whatever, like all these things. But what we do know is that from stories, feedback, our own personal evidence is that when you are taking care of your body, all these things that Charlie just listed off are regular occurrences, not side effects. The main effect is getting stronger, getting more functional, reducing your pain, increasing your flexibility. And so we can't ever claim that, hey, when you do it our style, you're going to reduce pain and increase. We can't claim that because it's not a treatment, right? But this is a lifestyle. When you exercise like this is how you engage with your exercise, and this is how you're going to take care of your muscles, your bones, your joints. And so I think that is the biggest physical takeaway that we hope that you get when you exercise with our principles and when you try out our membership and things like that.
Absolutely. So Julie, over the last 300 episodes,
yeah,
what's one thing that has kind of stayed the same for you as far as like a belief or a thought that you had back in December 2017 when we recorded our first episode that you still hold true today?
Okay, that one's really easy. That resistance training is the most important thing that you can be doing with your exercise. I remember having podcasts talking about this, making sure that your muscles are strong and functioning well. And we talk about resistance training and we talk about muscle activation techniques. I think that is still holding true. We need to be stimulating your muscles. We need to keep them functioning. Building muscle mass is good. This whole idea that resistance training is the foundation of your exercise is key. Whereas I think mainstream fitness thinks it's like an accessory, unless you're a bodybuilder, right? You think cardio and walking is the foundation of your exercise, and then resistance training is like the icing on top. No, resistance training is the ice cream. It is the main event. So that has stayed the same for me.
Awesome.
How about you?
Yeah, so I mean, you look at our first couple episodes, and the first episode was just our intro episode. The second episode, we kind of talked about like this hitting singles versus home runs with your workouts, and so this idea of like being able to exercise consistently.
Right.
We also, I think, talked about early on this idea of like internal versus external exercise, and so like making exercise something that's about what's going on within your body. So I think those concepts have stayed very very consistent for me. It's like, hey, you need to be exercising consistently. You need to have a focus of what's going on within your body, meaning exercise needs to be designed to improve what's going on within your body, not just to get something done externally. And then also early on, we talked about MAT consistently, and just the importance of the muscle system and how muscle function affects so much throughout your body as far as your joints, but mobility, strength, everything like that. But then also a lot of times like how people are emotionally feeling, how they're they're able to sleep and everything like that. I mean, the stuff that we see day in and day out, we got to kind of explore a lot of those things with some of those early conversations. And so, yeah, that's something that's definitely held true, over the last 300 episodes for me, is like, you have to be exercising. You have to be exercising consistently. And you want to make sure that the focus or like the lens that you're viewing exercise through is something to improve how your body is functioning, the health and function of your body, not just something to, get stuff done externally.
Right. And I think that's really those kind of 3 ideas are like our big things, where it's like, you got to be resistance training to take care of your muscles. You got to do something to take care of your muscles. They don't take care of themselves. You got to be putting stimulus in, and it's got to be consistent. It's got to be this regular thing. And then, of course, muscle activation techniques.
Sure.
Adding in MAT when muscles aren't functioning well, when you're having signs and symptoms that you're needing more focused work on your muscles.
Yeah, and I mean, just kind of looking back at some of our earlier episodes, like I really liked some of our earlier episodes.
I know, we still refer to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, things like benefits that you get, benefits of exercise that, aren't weight loss, and just, how those conversations have evolved, even though we kind of started having them on a more, public platform, over 5 years ago, over 5.5 years ago. Those conversations have evolved, but the seedlings of those ideas, those were there.
You're right, Charlie. But you know what is one of my favorite things that has changed? We were missing a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
We were missing a huge thing. And this really came from our observation of we were leaving some huge stuff out. Meaning, again, like what Charlie has said, you can listen to this podcast all day long, but until you start doing and taking action, your body's not going to change. Your health is not going to change. The state of your muscle system is not going to change. Your pain in your body's not going to change. The tightness in your body's not going to change. You actually have to do something. And so we realized that we really needed some foundational things to make sure people really understood the 4 things they need to be doing each and every workout to make sure that their workout was structured towards health rather than performance or the Olympics or their 5K or, any other external goal, but to make sure that it was all internal. But in the beginning, we hadn't really developed these ideas enough to make them clear and concise. Like we had all those ideas, but you'll notice that the more advanced an idea gets, the more simplified it can become, right? Mm-hmm. So we created our Exercise for Life principles, and I think that's the biggest change that our podcast has seen from the beginning.
Yeah, that's been huge. Just being able to consistently refer back, and part of it is you're right, dude. Like we understood the concepts, but we didn't really have like a rank order of like, okay, this is most important, and then this, and then this, and then this. And so because we didn't have that kind of process down, and really actually what I think helped us develop that or refine that was when everything got shut down with COVID, and we were having to doing our workouts from home live from our Facebook page every single day, 75 days in a row. And just talking through as we were doing the exercises, like, hey, these are the things you need to focus on. And just, you do that 75 days in a row,
right,
and you start seeing some trends develop, and you start saying, okay, like these are the things that we keep coming back to. Oh, maybe these things are actually things that we need to start putting more weight on. And even after we came out of COVID, I don't think we had really, really clearly defined as like, these are the principles. I don't think it was maybe until even end of 2021 or 2022 maybe that we like going through the one workout away challenge, everything like that. I mean, well, it would have been beginning of 2021 when we did I'm sorry, not beginning of 2021, September of 2021 when we did the resistance training building blocks program for the one workout away challenge.
Yes.
That I think was the first time that we clearly defined, hey, these are the 4 principles to Exercise for Life. And so that was the first time. So that was 2 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And so that those are things that we've been continuously talking about since then. But it was, like we said, it was getting shut down, having to, doing the live workouts 75 days in a row, finding what's kind of like consistent between as far as the things that we're talking about, and then being like, okay, yeah, like these really are the things.
Well, and it's not just what we're talking about, but when we talk about it and apply it, because we were doing these live workouts, and then we're like, dang, like what do people really need to know? Mm-hmm. Because we can't be there with them. Mm-hmm. And so I think Charlie and I have also gone through some personal professional transformation where in the beginning we're like, so can you work with people online? We're like, absolutely not. 100% no. Nope. Definitely not. And if you listen to a lot of our initial podcasts, we're saying, hey, go find someone in your area because we can't assess you. We can't look at you. And then when COVID shut us down, we were like, can you work with people online? And we were like, really? And I think Charlie was like, well, we have a business that needs to stay alive, so we need to figure this out. And I was like, no, I don't want to.
Okay, well, hold on. But it wasn't even from the business to start. It was because everybody else's gyms were getting shut down.
Right.
And before we shut down, we're saying, hey, if we're going to sit here every single week and tell people that they need to exercise, how in the heck can we say, oh, for the next 2 weeks, just take them off. Don't exercise because your gym shut down. I said, no, we're going to start providing an alternative option. So whether people's gyms are shut down or not, they can get these workouts in from home. So before we got shut down, we started doing those live workouts.
Yeah.
And it was just going to be be like something fun that we did that was, you know, something that other people could look forward to get a workout in, even if they didn't have access to a gym. And that's really what it started as.
Yeah. I remember we were sitting on our guest room bed, like just sitting, you know, against the wall. And I was like, all right, Charlie, we're going to do a live. I think I was like post shower, no makeup. It was just like, hey world, we're going to do live workouts at 11 a.m. Central Time every day on our Facebook. Tomorrow. Join us tomorrow. We're going to be there. And it really caught on. And I think through that experience, we really had to, again, fine tune our ideas. How are we going to make this exercise that we normally customize person by person when they're in person? And how do we teach people how to listen to their own bodies? You know, like we're always taught, like, listen to your body, but it's like, how? Like, what am I listening for? Because also when it comes to the gym, a lot of times what is promoted is to turn off your brain. Don't listen to the pain. Push through that because it's how it should be done. And so we really had like some serious curriculum to develop that we didn't know that we were going to be developing, but it developed, and it really made it so that we could provide more and more of like health appropriate exercise for people exercising from home, which was something we really had never done before. I did not expect for it to continue on. I literally thought it was like, thank goodness COVID is going to end. This virus contagion will either wipe out the world or it will end, and then I won't have to do anything online anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean, literally I believe it was like the very end of the very last workout. You know, like we had been working out with people for like 75 days in a row. Yeah. And like at the very end, at the sign off, I'm like, hey, like, thanks so much for, you know, for being there. Like, but I hope we like don't ever have to do this again.
See ya,
like that was
never.
literally like, okay, like, and then, you know, 2.5 months later, we're planning the one workout away challenge.
I know we had so many people reach out like, hey, like, could we bring those workouts back? Because also, like, you know, Charlie and I can only look at the world through our biased lens of our humanness, right? And we were like, who wouldn't want to go back to the gym? And all of our people were like, me, I never want to go back. I love working out at home. So anyways, that's how our Exercise for Life studio, that's how our Exercise for Life membership developed. That's how we developed our principles. And it was through, I mean, honestly, like, pressure, right? Like we had to, but we didn't realize like how powerful it was going to be. So I think, our biggest change is now we have the Exercise for Life principles that everyone should know and follow when you do your weight training.
Absolutely. The other thing that's really changed with this podcast is we used to only do interviews in person.
Yes.
And we only used to have like local practitioners
people.
And that was really fun for us because we get to know more people in the community, you know, whether they were acupuncturists or physical therapists or chiropractors or, you know, medical doctors or whatever. Like they would come in and we'd sit in our studio and we'd talk, and like that was awesome, but it was all very local based. And then we needed to start not doing interviews in person because we couldn't meet with people in person. And so then we started interviewing people all over the country and all over the world. And that's really allowed things to expand and grow for us as well. So that's been a big change. So the last kind of point that we're going to touch on is like, all right, where are we going from here? Like what do you see as kind of a place that we're going, not just like maybe with this podcast, but, you know, with things in general for us?
So the thing that I think we're going to start focusing on more is probably niching down. That's what I think we'll be doing. I'm sure you guys have noticed on the podcast, I've had a spiked interest in working with women with osteoporosis or heading in that direction. And I always think of this, and I don't mean anything negative towards chiropractors, but I used to be in a networking group with a chiropractor, and he would stand up every week to give his 2-minute, you know, elevator speech to let us know what he did. And he said, I work with everyone with spines. And I thought he thought he was including everyone, and I thought he was excluding everyone, because I was like, literally you talked to no one when you said that, because everyone has a spine, obviously. So we could say like, we work with everyone with muscles. People are always like, who do you help? And so I think that over time we'll start niching down and talking more about our specific areas that we're wanting to focus on. And I think what's really hard as like for us as entrepreneurs in doing that is like feeling like we're going to exclude someone that could really benefit from this style of exercise because we haven't specifically said like, oh, if I'm not a woman with osteoporosis, will this help me? But I think Charlie has his own interests, but still it's so interesting is that the exercise principles still apply to no matter what like category you think you are in relative to, you know, fitness in your life.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's going to be a really big thing for us going forward. And kind of along those lines, I think the other place that we're going forward is implementing, getting more feedback from the people that we're working with, and implementing kind of the things that they are looking for. Because I think a lot of what we have created up to this point is stuff that we're interested in to an extent. A lot of the topics that we have in this podcast are things that we are interested in to an extent. We try to answer questions that get submitted our way and things of that nature. But I think as we get more niche, then we will have a better understanding of like what each of our specific demographics really is looking for and being able to solve those problems directly. So I guess my point in saying that is like, if you have ideas of things that you want us to talk about, if you have, things that you are wanting to be created that we might be able to have a hand in, either from a programming perspective or, a workout perspective or whatever, please let us know, because that is something that we're going to be starting to pursue more heavily, but that doesn't work unless we actually get that feedback and we get that kind of information. So you're always welcome to DM us on Instagram or email us, whatever works best for you. We are very accessible online, but getting that kind of feedback is, I think, going to be really key for us going forward, to help kind of us be more strategic than we've been in the past with the different decisions that we're making, the different things that we're offering.
So if you have benefited from our content, we'd love to hear from you. If you send us a DM or an email, you can email us easily at info@matschaumburg.com. Let us know who you are, what you've loved from our podcast, what physical changes you've seen, and things like that are really helpful for us developing more and more content.
Absolutely. And so, hey, if you've been with us, if this is your first episode, or if you've been with us for all 300 episodes, we just want to take a moment and say thank you for your consistent commitment, your consistent support, of us. This show is not something that we've been running ads on or anything like that. But taking those moments to leave us rating and reviews, to share it on social, everything like that, it really not only helps us spread our message, but it really means a lot to us when you do that. So thank you for taking those moments out of your day to not only share them with us, but share them with others as well. So on that note, who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that is interested in getting in on a new podcast that they haven't heard about, even though it's been around for 300 episodes?
Oh my gosh.
Share this episode with them so they can start following our podcast, they can start enjoying our content, and ultimately so they can start applying the information that we share week in and week out to help them exercise for life. And while you're online, if you wouldn't mind, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It helps people find our podcast when they're looking for information on exercise and they're looking for information on health. So if you found value or entertainment or anything in what we've talked about today or any of our other 299 episodes, we'd really appreciate it if you let us know by leaving us that 5-star rating and review.
And as always, make sure you get your 2-week free membership by going to www.exerciseforlifestudios.com. And if anyone was wondering, I did ask Charlie about what the heck the movie 300 was about, because this is episode 300 and I thought we should definitely do a spin on it. And then I realized it's some kind of like ancient war movie or something. I was like, yeah, sorry, I can't listen to this long enough
now
to
I know
understand.
What we're watching this weekend.
I know. Oh gosh, I'll probably fall asleep. Anyways, we hope to see you in a podcast soon.
Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.
This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlie Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.